one come up, which will just go. You want another few minutes? Or you? Okay, let's start with Jason. Okay. And listen, so everybody's going to do like a 3 to 5 minute thing about who they are, what they do, some things to give you an idea of what to go talk to at their table. Even if, I promise you, even if it's something like, I have no interest in that at all, you probably could still benefit from talking to them for at least a couple minutes, because you might find out some things that would be helpful for you just to log away. You never know what you're going to need until you need it. And another thing, I know we have a lot of ladies here, and I'm very happy for that, but at the same time, we are not trying to say that we're trying to create careers for women. I still believe that being a wife and a mother is the highest calling and job responsibility in the world. At the same time, Proverbs 31 extols the virtuous woman who is able to help in a workspace type thing for her family. And while your goal and desire might be to be a wife and a mother, maybe it hasn't happened yet, maybe it may not happen for a few years, and to be able to have some things that you can work on, and maybe ways that it would be able to help your family when you do get married, could be a great benefit. This world is not, America is not anymore a single economy household type setup. It's very difficult to make it on what is the average wage for single income families. We have a friend, a lady who started a blog when she was, I think, like 16 years old, and now she does very little work with it, and she makes $150,000 a year. That seriously helps her family, just because she started something she had an interest in when she was a teenager. So by all means, ladies, gentlemen, talk to everybody, get a lot of different things that will help you now and possibly in the future as well. All right? Let me go ahead and pray and ask God's blessing, and we'll begin. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for this day, and we would ask, Lord, that you would please, Lord, bless this day, Lord, as you say that it's good to work, and that a person should work with their hands, and that he that provides not for his own is worse than an infidel. And there's so many things in Scripture, Lord, that show us the importance of work. And thank you, Lord, for all these men and women that are here this morning to be able to help clue everybody in a little bit on what's out there, what they do, and that maybe, just maybe those young people, or maybe even some older people that are struggling with trying to find where they would fit in that space, Lord, would be able to pick up some things this morning that would help them in that way. Lord, we thank you for it. Pray that you bless every single person that gave up a portion of their day today to be able to be here to help out, and we thank you for them, Lord, and pray that this would be a great blessing for you and for everybody here. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. One more thing. Our HVAC guy was not able to come this morning, and our school teacher is out of town. So we do have, I'll mention at the end the people that we don't have here who you can talk to follow up if you have interest in those areas as well. So we'll go ahead and start with Jason.
Listen, everyone knows when you have a classroom presentation, you volunteer to go first. You can't be compared to anyone else. Expectations are low. So I'm a software engineer. I've been doing it for about 25 to 26 years. When I was 9 years old, I got my first computer. It was called a Tandy Color Computer 3. If you come back to my desk, I'll show you a picture of it. You'll be staggered. It had 120, I'm not going to get too nerdy on you, but I'll give you some stats here. It had 128 kilobytes of RAM. Okay, your phone right now probably has like 2 gigabytes, so that's 16,000 times more memory in your phone than was in my computer. And it had no storage, which means whatever thing you did with the computer, when you turn that power off, zero. You're back to zero. So I used to have, it came with a big fat manual of programs. And so like, I would make my babysitter like sit there and type in 16 pages of this basic program out of this book. And then you press run. And if you typed everything exactly perfect, no mistakes at all, and it wouldn't tell you, and you run it, it would like make a red square, go down and across the rows like that or whatever, right? And then you shut it off and have them do it next Saturday. But it was really cool to be able to, take some action on this, like control this thing and see some feedback come immediately. And that's what I loved about it. And so, not everyone like can figure out what they want to do, you know, what they want to go to school for, career for, whatever. But like I figured that out pretty soon. That like I liked this. So I've had a chance to work on all different kinds of things. I mean, you know, today's software is in everything. You know, there's software involved in this mic pack here that controls the charging and the battery indicator and the radio frequency modulation, all that kind of stuff. I worked on X-ray systems. If you ever looked for a job at Indeed.com, like I worked with that. Work at a cybersecurity company now. What I love about software is it's, you know, it's present in everything we do. There's lots of different domains that you can switch through. And probably at this point in 2025, there are more, you can go on YouTube right now and get a better education than what I paid for to go at RIT, you know, 25 years ago. So the barrier is lower than it's ever been. Things are changing. You might have heard about like AI and all this kind of stuff. But I think that the field is not going away. I think regardless of what aspects you're interested in, learning how to code, the barrier is lower than it's ever been. Everyone can learn how to do just a little bit. It's all the tools are free, all the knowledge is readily available. Even if you are interested, I would strongly advise, even if you're interested in some other field, learning how to do a little bit of it, learning to be familiar with it, is going to help you in most things you do. So happy to answer some more questions, show you some pictures, and that's it.
I told my business partner this last weekend, I said, the only person I don't want to follow is Jason. Alrighty, my name is Joel. For those who don't know, I have been working in the landscape industry for the last 6 years and have owned and operated my own business for the last 18 months. So it's still a very new, very baby company. But my dad worked in the landscape industry before he was called to the mission field, so that's my background. That's what I grew up watching Dad go to work every day. He'd bring mulch home. We'd build patios together since the time I was 4 years old and upward. And then I needed a job right out of high school. I came off the mission field pretty much by myself, and I needed a job, and I knew what I could do. So I said, let me just get hired, see if I can find a landscape company here in Rochester, New York. And that is what built my entire career. I didn't know if it was going to be a full-time career for me. All I knew is I needed a job. So I got there, and the Lord directed my steps every single day, every single season, because there's two different paths you can take as the landscape industry. You can either do the part-time thing in between college semesters, in between high school years. It's a great way to get out, work with your hands, build some strength, get some common knowledge about landscape lighting. There's your little base in electricity. Landscape irrigation, there's a little bit in plumbing and installing those systems. And for me, I went towards the landscape construction, building patios, decks. You learn how to do a lot of different things, and it can open a lot of different pathways and help you find out what you really want to do as you go forward in your career. Or like me, you can choose to make a career out of it. And the Lord led my steps at the company. I built up a network over 4 years of suppliers, of just the different people you need to know in your industry, and that was crucial in me stepping out on my own and becoming the co-owner of Grandview Lawn Landscape today. And the most important thing too, I'd say, is to get into a field and find mentors that are willing to teach, because that's what I had. I had a lot of fantastic mentors. I actually texted one this last week, even though I don't work for him anymore. I still have that open door to go back, text him, ask him questions. He pointed me in the right direction because I needed a certified plumber for an irrigation job coming up, and he was able to point me in the right direction. So wherever you're at, try and learn. Treat it, even if you are working, treat it as school. I treated my job for the last 4.5 years at the other employer at school, I asked questions, and I learned how to acquire clients. I learned how to price jobs, so that when I did step out on my own with my partner, we were able to almost transition seamlessly. It almost, like one day I stopped going to work for my former employer, and then I woke up, put on my boots, and I worked for myself. And God really helped in that seamless transition because of my ability to learn and make mistakes for someone else, you could say. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, whether it's about the landscape industry or about starting your new business. I don't know anything. I don't claim to know everything, but only time will tell if it's a success. Thank you.
All right, Joel. I would want to piggyback on that. Mentorship is incredibly important. I was very, very blessed to have my father as a mentor for me going into agriculture. But, you know, back when I was a kid, I was very fortunate to have my own shop, my own tractor. Well, Dad was here at the farm. We lived in Hilton, and I had 50 acres at my disposal with a tractor, with plows, and I just went crazy and had all kinds of fun. My own shop, I did a lot of crazy things that kids probably shouldn't be doing in a shop, but when you look back over your life, mentorship is key. As far as after college, you know, went to construction, then came back to the farm, and, you know, Dad's sitting there telling me I'm the boss and you're going to take over the farm, and you're kind of like, oh my goodness, there's no way, Dad, I'm going to take over this farm. There's no way I could do this without you. Well, 5 years into this, okay, maybe it'll be okay. 10 years, I think I can handle this. 15, 20 years, okay, Dad, you can. But it did take a long time. And as I look back, you look at, you know, college, 4 years, well, yeah, I learned a lot. After that, you go into construction. Well, there was another skill set that you learned. After college, you look at the beginning of farming. Yeah, there's another 4 years. Each increment you grew as you went along. And so when in your life, you need to try and improve the best you can. Every time you go out to do something, try to do it better than you did before. Yes, I made mistakes. Let's see if we can stop making those mistakes. Anyway, going to mechanical engineering, I went through RIT. Seth is going to UB. I should have him up here doing a presentation on college. But obviously college is not for everybody. You're going to a secular school, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Be unmovable, steadfast, always abounding in the work of the Lord. You should be able to go into the world and survive the world. And, you know, really I made that decision early on at MCC. That's the other thing. If you're going to go to college, I managed to do MCC for 3 years, 2 years into a 3-year program, and then went to RIT, which has another 3 years. They mix a co-op and a year of co-op into that. So, anyway, farming, you get into all kinds of stuff, fertilizer, pesticide application, field work, tractors, mechanics, financial, there's not too many, software even, there's not too many fields that you are not dabbling in. So, if anybody has any questions on that.
Ran across this in my Bible reading this morning. I was really excited because it fits really well in 1 Kings chapter 5. Now, first of all, everybody knows who I am and what I do. Everybody does, except for me. He knows too, obviously. Because everybody's car breaks down. I think I've worked on everybody's vehicles. And I mean everybody's.
Including mine.
Including yours. But really, kind of what we're doing, talking here, is a little bit about the journey to where you can go from our young people sitting in the pew going through high school to where I am now. And it's actually, honestly, we're at a church here, it's actually a very spiritual journey. And like I think most people would attest to this. It's a series of supernatural events that take place in your life that only God can set up and put in place. In 1 Kings chapter 5, we have Hiram. And did you know that Hiram was the king of Tyre? Was actually an Israelite. He was probably his mother, probably his half-Israelite. But I'm just going to touch on a couple things from these verses because it's really neat. 1 Kings 5, verse 1, we find here a little bit about Hiram. It's Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father, for Hiram was ever a lover of David. And then we come down to verse 7. It came to pass when Hiram heard the words of Solomon that he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, which hath given unto David a wise son over his people. Hiram was just an incredibly wonderful, great man. He was a king. He was personable. He was a lover of David, the man after God's own heart. He was close friends with him. He was a lover of good men, like it says. And Hiram was just a great, wonderful person. He was also very, very skilled. If you look in 1 Kings chapter 7, we find that in the previous chapters, Hiram sent his servants to work with David's servants. But you see, Hiram was actually extremely skilled on his own. 1 Kings 7 and verse 13, it tells us here that Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. And he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. Hiram was personally skilled. He personally had this, even though he was a king and sat on a throne, he actually literally himself physically came to Israel and helped physically, personally work in that special work of the brass, making all the things for the temple. But he had a severe handicap, and that was that his father had died. That rang a bell with me because all of you know that my father died when I was 17, and that was before I had any career path of any sort. And the career that my father was in, he was an electrical engineer, and he knew how to do software and all kinds of things like that. I didn't know anything about him, anything to do with it. I had no idea what coding is. I would scream. Sitting at a computer all day. But what's funny is my dad was an electrical guy, and I didn't have anything to do with electrical because I couldn't see it. It's just incredibly ironic that what I do for a living now is a lot of what I do is finding and repairing electrical problems in cars and trucks. I never went to college. I went to Bible Institute. And it's just one little, I'll love to tell you my story. There'll be a chance later for me to tell you a little bit about little steps. I've been in the transportation industry all my life, but I've changed a little bit. I was a truck driver, then I went to the truck dealership, and now we repair, and I will say that our bread guys are out of town, but my company is a partner with these these guys who deliver bread and stuff, because we keep their trucks running. And I got some pictures back there you can see. I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to say that the Lord is really blessed, and in just a few short years, we've had the opportunity to start my own truck repair company. I have one employee, and continuing to grow and trying to just ask God for that direction one step at a time. And I think in closing, I'll say, even though I didn't go to college, about 3 or 4 years ago, I turned off the radio in my car. And I started buying audiobooks and listening to those. And I just did some math. So far I've listened to 55 titles. These are books I've purchased for about $8 to $15 a piece. Listen to these books. I've consumed about 300 hours of genius. These are good books, New York Times, stuff that's relevant to leadership and sales training and operating, how to operate a company, basically. I've consumed about 300 hours of that, and that's an opportunity for me to get that college education in when I'm just driving. So it's a good option.
Yeah, that's a good side note. You know, you don't have to go to college. You can teach yourself. There's resources out there.
All right, I think most of you know me by now. Justin Trzynski. I did go to this church for, I don't know, about 5 years or so, way back when. I'm a police officer with the Rochester Police Department. I've been there for about 15 years, so I'll give you a little overview on law enforcement, mostly specific to the city of Rochester. Main job in law enforcement, your main responsibility is always 911 calls, right? You respond to 911 calls, you document crimes. That's job number one. Going to do a lot of interviewing of victims and witnesses, and then obviously the fun part, the arresting the suspects. So that's kind of the main job of what law enforcement incorporates. Secondary type tasks in law enforcement is you're doing a lot of like following up on criminal investigations. That's those knocking on people's doors, looking back into things, making phone calls, doing that kind of stuff. That's secondary type work. Searching for warrant suspects, conducting traffic stops, all those types of things that you hear about. That's kind of, again, secondary type work in law enforcement after the main job of responding to 911 calls and stuff. Work conditions. You will spend most of your career in law enforcement in a mobile office. So a lot of these guys, Brother McCracken working out in the field, he's got a mobile office most of the time. That's kind of the same thing with law enforcement. You're going to be out and about. You're constantly in and out of a car, which also gives you the ability, it gives you a great deal of freedom. In the city, I'm able to pretty much traverse the entire geographical confines of the city and do most of whatever I want that evening as long as I'm keeping up with those primary tasks. You're also trusted with a great deal of responsibility and discretion. So oftentimes you're making a decision on whether you're going to arrest somebody or you're not going to arrest somebody or whether you're going to take action on a certain thing. And then I'll just give you a quick, we can talk in more depth, but I'll give you 6 key skills that I kind of find, personality type traits that make you successful in law enforcement. You don't necessarily need these, but if you're kind of the person who maybe has some of these personality or character type traits, you may find this a successful career. The first one I'll give you is communication. The number one skill you have to have as an officer is the ability to talk to people. That's pretty much what you're doing all day long, is you're talking to people. We say that your greatest, I guess we'll call them your greatest defensive tactic, right? Your greatest ability in a fight is to just be able to communicate and not have to get in the fight to begin with. So talking is a great skill set that you need. It's absolutely a must. Also, second one, high energy people. People are drawn to policing because they can't sit still. They like to move all day long. They like to get up. They can't stand sitting in a desk or in an office. I wanted a job where I wasn't stuck in an office. I wanted a job where I could be out, moving around, be outside, and so this was an option for me. Skill number 3, hunters. If you like to hunt, generally I find that they make really good law enforcement officers because it's just that prey drive inside somebody. They see something, they want to hunt it down, they want to follow it, they want to stalk it. It's a great skill set to have. Natural curiosity. If you're someone who's naturally curious, you're often and I don't mean you're rebelling, right? I mean you're curious. You want to know why things are happening, why people go places. You notice maybe ways that people respond to things, their emotional responses to things, and you're perceptive about those types of things. You want to know, like, why is a person doing something? That natural curiosity tends to make you a good law enforcement officer. Other thing is, I know I'm going to lose a lot of guys on this, but writing skills. Writing skills are pretty crucial to policing. You have to document everything. We joke, 5 minutes of fun is 4 hours of paperwork. Okay, you gotta document everything that happens so that then they can go to court and argue about it, and lawyers can argue back and forth with judges and everything else. So you have to be able to document that stuff and write it down. So writing skills are important. And then the final key I'll give you is being self-motivated. The police department is a government agency, which means they're a terrible employer. Okay, the government by nature is just a terrible employer. You're never gonna get an attaboy, you're never gonna get any type of thing that pushes you to work harder. So it's all gonna be based on what your own personal drive. And that is, your basic success in the police department is so often just based on how much drive you have. What do you do with your free time? Where do you put your energy? To get in, you don't need to, when we're talking about college, you don't need a college degree in order to be a law enforcement officer with at least the city. Other agencies may be a little different, but generally it's just a GED or a high school diploma is acceptable. You must be 21 years old, though, in order to start or to graduate the academy. So on the day that you graduate the academy and actually start on the road, you have to be 21 years old because you have to be able to carry a gun in public. And so New York State law says 21. However, that is kind of a benefit because it does give you 3 years in there where you got to do something with your life. So a lot of officers, even though you don't require to have a college degree, most officers end up having a college degree, and there are some advantages to it. Like just for example, in the city, associate's degree or military experience gets you 2% bonus, bachelor's degree gets you 4% bonus, and a master's degree gets you a 6% bonus. So it's not required, but almost all officers have it. You don't need any type of security clearance, but federal and state, when it comes to your background investigation and everything getting hired, it is extensive. So every decision you make in your life leading up to that getting hired is crucial. Living a pure, innocent life with good character traits and good qualities is absolutely imperative because they're going to go back and they're going to talk to everybody you ever knew. They're going to talk to your neighbors. They're going to talk to your friends. They're going to talk to past girlfriends. They're going to talk to your pastor. They're going to talk to everybody. So they're going to find out everything you did, every bad decision you ever made. So as you're moving through the years now, keep that in mind. If that's something you want to do in the future, you need to keep your life clean and pure. And then I'll just say this real quick to the parents, because I know law enforcement is a very hard, it's a scary career for parents when your kid's interested in that. Your child will witness a lot of the worst of society. They will see sin firsthand. They will see the cost of sin firsthand, and they will see and feel how destructive it really truly is. There's a lot of temptations when it comes to law enforcement, and we'll get into that back at the table if you're interested in it. So there's a lot of things that you can protect yourself at, or need to protect yourself from as a Christian. However, with a good, strong family, with a good, strong church, with a good, strong relationship with Christ, it's nothing that you can't overcome. But I'll add this to it. The benefit is that I don't really believe there's a much better ground, if you're a strong Christian, to later prepare you in life for either pastoral work or missionary work. And I say that because you have opportunities every single day out on the street to be able to talk to people and tell people about Christ. I put people in the back of my car, drive them down to booking, and I put on James Knox's gospel message, and I make them listen to the gospel message the whole way down to booking. All right? I'll step out with people on the side of the street, and I'll give them tracts, or I'll just sit and talk to them. You see people at their worst, and just sometimes you can throw little bits of scripture and stuff. I have friends who just will say, yeah, that's a really messed up situation. It's crazy because the Bible says this about that. And they're, oh, it does? There's a lot of good doors to be able to open up future. And then obviously when you get to be able to retire at 41 years old, you're in the prime of your life still to be able to go off and do those other things, and you have a pension behind you to kind of support you. So although there's a lot of scary things with it, there's also some benefits on the flip side of that. So I'll explain some more of that later in the back if you want. All right, so let's just a quick overview, give you an idea of what law enforcement is like.
All right, everybody, I am not a public speaker at all, so this is a little bit of torture. Put this thing on. I give, medicines that can kill you, but I can't put a microphone on. Here we are. Okay, so hi. I am Amanda. I'm Justin's wife. I am a bachelor's prepared registered nurse with a little over 11 years of experience. I've worked in a lot of different settings. Currently, I work in the post-anesthesia care unit. That's where you come directly out from surgery. A lot of times you still aren't breathing on your own. Your blood pressure's through the roof, and I'm the one that kind of is there right by your side every step of the way to get you stable so that I can send you up to the floor or I can send you home. That's currently where I work. I've also worked as a stroke nurse. I've worked in neurosurgery. I was a labor and delivery nurse for a while. So there's lots of avenues and places to work in nursing, and it's not something that if you're not enjoying one place that you can't go somewhere else. Nursing is incredibly diverse, so there wouldn't be enough time for me to sit here and tell you every avenue that you could go in nursing, but at its core, the role of a registered nurse is to promote health, prevent illness, and provide care across all stages of life and in pretty much every setting you can imagine. So in broad terms, nurses assess patients' health needs. We provide tailored care to that specific individual. We're hands-on in a lot of different settings. That means administering medications, and sometimes that can be really nerve-wracking because we give, like I said before and kind of made a joke of, we administer really high-risk medications to a lot of patients. We perform different treatments, wound care, we place IVs, we respond to emergencies. If someone's heart stops beating, we perform CPR on them. So really the full gamut of anything you can imagine in providing hands-on care. Another key role is educating patients. So when my patient is awake and they're stable, if they're gonna go home, I'm explaining to them, these are the decisions you need to make at home so that, you can heal and this knee replacement doesn't fail, or these are medicines that you should avoid for a while so that you don't end back up here. So a lot of teaching is in our jobs. We do a lot of advocacy for patients, ensuring that their rights and needs are heard and met. So you have to be someone that's willing to stand up for your patient, even if you don't necessarily agree with their decision. You need to be someone that's capable of saying, hey doc, this patient prefers to not have male staff in the room. I understand that that complicates things a little bit, but can we work together to make that work? That's just a very basic example. So you have to be willing to stand up and advocate for patients. You have to be able to work with others and collaborate. We don't do anything independently. We are a team. We work with everyone from the person cleaning the linens to the CEO of the establishment. So you have to be able to talk to them and work with them. We work in a variety of settings, so pretty much anywhere you can think of, probably it touches medicine in some way. So hospitals, doctors' offices, nursing homes, schools, nurses go into people's private homes, they're at summer camps, they're at medical spas, they're in insurance companies, tech companies, there are remote jobs, there are virtual nurses now that show up in hospitals on like an iPad and triage virtually. There are lots of nurses on the mission field. So nurses can go pretty much anywhere. The environment can depend greatly on the specific setting you choose, and we can get more specific at the table about what your specific interest is and what your day might look like based on where you work. The schedule is pretty flexible, and that's one of the things I love most about being a wife and mother as a nurse, is that I'm able to work per diem, which means I choose my own schedule. I'm able to work on days that work with my husband's schedule. I'm still able to homeschool my children. I'm very, very active in our church. And I have the ability to say, no, I'm not coming in on this day. I'm not working a Sunday. I'm not working this holiday. So it's very, very flexible. However, that comes with a little caveat that I have experience behind me. So you do have to have some experience, minimally a year, before you're able to have that kind of flexibility. You also have to be aware that weekends, holidays, and non-traditional hours can be a part of that process for you. So it's just something to keep in mind. In following my husband, some traits that I think would make you successful as a nurse are being compassionate. You have to have a heart for people. You have to be a critical thinker. We make a lot of really important decisions, and you have to be capable of thinking and changing quickly, noticing really small changes. If the monitor is showing that someone's breathing beautifully, but I'm looking at you and I'm saying, no, you're not, you have to be able to say, okay, well, I'm not going to just pay attention to this monitor. You have to critically think. Good communicators, you need to be clear and respectful and effective at communicating with people from all different walks of life. Attentive to detail, again, being able to make sure that that medicine is exactly what it's supposed to be. You have to be emotionally resilient. Nursing is stressful and it's very emotionally intense, so you have to be able to be in control of your emotions. Being adaptable, a good team player, good with time management, a strong advocate, and then a lifelong learner. Medicine evolves. I mentioned I work for Diem, so I come in after a week of being gone and everything's different. So you have to be able to grow and evolve with medicine. In terms of education, registered nurses have to have an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. If you choose the associate's degree route, you do have to have a bachelor's degree within 10 years. It's called BSN in 10 for anyone who's licensed after 2015. You also have to pass the NCLEX, which is a really rigorous exam, and then you'll be governed by the New York State Board of Nursing. There are other certifications that we can talk more in detail about at the table, but just know that there are additional requirements that you have to do. For example, like I have basic life support, advanced life support, pediatric life support. Based on my position, your position would require you to have additional ones based on where you are. In terms of security clearance, there's no security clearance for nursing. You do have to do a background check when you apply into a nursing program, and they kind of do a similar thing. They're going to dig up everything that they can find about you. You're going to have to go be fingerprinted at the police department. You are going to have to pass a drug screening, and they are going to really look into the background that you have. In New York State, you also have to attest to being of good moral character when you apply for your nursing license. So that's going to mean that you don't have criminal convictions, that you've never been convicted of like professional misconduct by any governing board. You also have to attest that you've never defaulted on loans. So just being good with your money, they look into all of that. So in every 3 years, you have to attest to those things. And then my last little thing is just about faith, because that's why we're here today, right? To talk about the Christian perspective from this career. I really believe that nursing is a calling. It's not something you should go into unless you feel God is really leading you to that. Nursing allows us to be the hands and feet of Christ, but that comes with a really significant burden. We care for and work alongside people of all backgrounds, lifestyles, religions, everything you can imagine. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've experienced it. And that means that you have to be really firmly grounded in the Word of God. You have to know what the Bible says, and you have to be prepared to give an answer at any moment to any person. And that could mean that the CEO of the hospital is rounding and makes a comment, and you have to be prepared to speak to that person who is in this position of authority. You have to be able to meet someone when they're on the floor, crying over a decision that they've made. You have to be able to speak to anyone about what God says. I pretty much every shift have someone asking me questions, whether it's, why do you only wear dresses? Or what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Every single shift, I'm answering questions about what God says. And you have to know that your faith will really be tested, and you want to pass that test. So just make sure that your foundation is solid. I'll talk to you guys more later.
All right, well, most of you know me. I'm John Reed. I got into construction. My dad, again, like Joel said, he built our house before I was born. So I, been around the construction field my whole life. He was a jack of all trades. He's the oldest of 12 kids. And so he's the welder, he's the builder, he's the mechanic, he's anything that needed to be done, he did it. Plumbing, anything, you did it. And I just wanted to be like my dad. So I followed him, anytime I could, ride on the tractor with him in the field, on the farm. It was just something I would still do to this day. It's an awesome thing. Your kids, I don't know what they think about following you. Like, I would walk for miles behind the plow, just the smell of the dirt. I loved the smell of the fresh dirt, but I kind of wanted to build stuff. I like the smell of cut wood as well. And we had a sawmill, so that had something to do with that, because you cut various species of wood, and the smell of that was just amazing. But I always wanted to build stuff, so, I decided, once I got out of high school, I worked on a farm initially, and then my first job was a cabinet shop. So I'll just build stuff. That's what my boss said. He's like, why do you want to be here? I said, I want to make stuff out of wood. He's like, okay. My first job was sanding boxes for a shoe display for Howard and Johnson's. So someplace, a shoe place in Pennsylvania. He's like, see all those pallets? Yep. Sand it all. Okay. So I stood there with an orbital sander all day for like 3 weeks. But that's one thing, like has been mentioned, dedication. You have to have an interest, but once your boss sees that you're dedicated to it and you're giving 100%, 110%, it goes a long ways. So I got bumped up pretty quickly. I wasn't doing the menial stuff. He let me actually start assembling cabinets early on. And there wasn't, it's not like you never make mistakes. I cut plywood the wrong way for shelving one time, a whole stack of it. There was like 8 sheets of red oak plywood, and I didn't know about the grain, that it made any difference. And I cut it crossways instead of lengthways. So if you put any weight on the shelf, it sags. So he just stood there, he looked at me. He said, what'd you do? I said, what do you mean? He's like, it's all wrong. It made me feel this big. But he was a good boss. He wasn't like, you're such a jerk. He's like, cut it all wrong, go back and cut some more. So I got 5 more sheets and checked it. And the very next day, he asked me to cut a Cory on top. He's like, if you mess it up, don't come back here. Just go home. And I'm like, he's like, you can do it, go ahead. So, and I did it. But it's like, yeah, right. But you have to have a mind to want to do it right. You just try. You're going to make mistakes. So then the cabinet shop, they folded, so I went out of that, and it was how the Lord worked that. I got to work with a Christian crew. My dad was working for a Christian guy doing siding, framing and siding houses. And I got let go on Wednesday. They let me finish the week out. And Monday, I started the new job and working right alongside my dad, which is like, yes, I'm back with my dad again. And but then he didn't want to stay in that field, working for that guy. So he went and was building log houses. So then we kind of got into that. So I got experience doing log houses, but I stayed with that guy for 9 years. And then that company was fading out. So then I went on my own in 2000 and started my own siding business. And that was total work of the Lord, because I had no money for any equipment. So I asked my boss, I said, if I keep siding for you, can I go on my own? But then I'll still make sure I'm doing your siding. He said, yes. So I can use his equipment and then slowly get my own equipment. So he let me do that, and it was great. So I did that for 18 years. And then in my mid-40s, I got tired of heights. Just everybody seemed like they were doing 2-story houses, 12 pitch, with walkouts and my 40-foot ladder out every day. I was working by myself the last 7 years of it, and it was just, I'm tired of it. Just flighting. The winter was the worst, because everything's covered in ice, and it's just dangerous. I look back now, I haven't done it in almost 7 years. Like, how did I do that year-round, every day? But you just did it, because, I don't know, probably because my dad did it. You just go. You just go. So now I'm into, I did work at Bath and Kitchen Place for 2 years, 5 years rather, and just because I wanted to learn more about the inside. I was framing, did the siding for the guy, and then I went into framing. I could build a house, but I had no idea how to do drywall, no idea about the plumbing and electric, very little bit, no idea about tile, anything about the inside. So this place, I'll do tile, I'll do plumbing, I'll do electric, I'll do drywall. You can do all the inside, so great. So I'll learn that. And the way I see it is, you don't have to call somebody to have work done in your own house, because they're going to charge you $100 an hour, $80 an hour. or more, depending on what it is. So if you are able to do that yourself, when I go home today, I gotta fix the sink because the drain's leaking. Just the old junky chrome-plated stuff is leaking. So, but I would have to call a plumber because how do you fix that? Well, to me, it's really easy. It's just a trap. It's not. But that's one of the things. So on the side, I do decks and interior stuff. I've done crown molding and little wainscot panels along houses and stuff. So I just like that the field that I do, you're using saws and drills. There's a danger factor here. And I've got some pictures of that. I didn't put them on the slide thing though. Yeah, things can happen. Anybody can get hurt doing any job. But I just like building stuff, assembling it, and just seeing the finished product. It just gives me that joy. I don't work with a Christian crew, as some people have mentioned. The guys who are now are pretty much all Catholic. When I worked with my dad on that crew, they were all professing Christians, different stripe necessarily, but now it's not at all. And the mouth, my boss is really filthy. You just have to block it out. I think it would have more effect on a 18-year-old, 19-year-old just coming out of school if they've never been around that. You're going to either be caught back, like, wow, I can't believe they're saying this stuff, or you're going to get sucked in. So you got to have a good foundation that you're going to block that out and speak up, say, hey, I don't appreciate that. And they control their tongue around me. You get 3 or 4 of them together and they can get bad. And I'll just walk away. Yesterday they said it was National Craft Beer Day or something. And I'm like, well, I'm not having one till. Oh, come on, everybody's got it. No. So you got to stay in your ground. They'll know after a little while. I've been at this company for almost 2 years. And they'll know after a little while, a short while, what you believe and what you'll take. They'll try to push your buttons sometimes. Just hold your ground. And they'll respect you for it. And one of the most important things is being on time. Be early. It really matters. It gets brought up every single review I've ever had. Is you're one of the first ones here, and you're one of the last ones to leave. And you don't mind staying 10 minutes past 4 o'clock because we work 7:30 to 4 every day. Or 7:30, 3:30 every day. That's just how this company is. But if I want to finish the job, I might stay till 4 o'clock. I might even stay till quarter after. But then I'll leave early on Friday because they don't want to see it overtime. But you just be faithful, and they can see, and it makes a difference when you go to get hired. College, I don't have any college education whatsoever. You don't really need it. There's no safety or security clearance. You gotta get a drug test. If you're gonna drive a company vehicle, you gotta do the DOT test, which is nothing really. So I just pretty much do anything that has to do with remodeling construction. That's pretty much what I do, and I love it. I'm not 45 feet in the air anymore. I'll still do it occasionally if I have to, because they'll send me because they know I'll do it. But it's not an everyday thing. So if you're interested in more stuff, come on and talk to me. I'm glad to answer any questions.
It's always funny when people ask me what I do for a living, and I always pause because I'm not really sure. Because my job's a little different than a lot. I think you might be able to relate to what I do. I've been in healthcare administration for about 7-8 years now, but I've been in the healthcare space for 38 years. I started off as a clinical dietitian many moons ago, back in 1987, so that's 38 years, right? So I started off in hospitals, working bird units, critical care units, all that. I specialized in TPN, tube feeding, all that good stuff. So I worked in that for a while. Then I got into the operational side of running a department. So I ran food service departments, dining services departments, and then I opted to go into the senior living space. So I worked in a nursing home, running food service, running purchasing. I got a little bit more background in Six Sigma practices, operational practices, leadership practices, and then I was asked to take over the quality department. So I took over the quality department at a local facility, 200-bed facility. Did that for a while. Then I got a crazy idea of becoming an administrator, a healthcare administrator, and I sometimes loathe that decision because it's like crazy. And I'll give you the formal definition of what I do, and then I'll kind of get into a little bit more specific. So I went to the New York State Department of Health website, which is really who I work with a lot. Our field is the most governed and regulated industry in healthcare, senior living. So this is what I do. The practice of nursing home administration means planning, organizing, directing, and managing the operation, as well as implementing the policies of a nursing home or a skilled living facility or a hospital, whatever. This includes, but is not limited to, making operating decisions, ensuring fiscal responsibility, providing general supervision, employing and discharging staff, which is always fun, programming and ongoing evaluation of the care and services provided in the facility to ensure the health and safety of the residents, visitors, and staff. Where appropriate, integrating the services of the nursing home with the community's health resources. Along with that, nursing home administrators are in effect the chief executive officers of healthcare facilities and organizations, and as such are responsible for the health, safety, and well-being of the most vulnerable New Yorkers in New York State. To nursing homes shall operate, no nursing home shall operate unless it's under the supervision of an administrator who holds a current valid license. So that pretty much I do everything, right? But I don't do everything, I kind of oversee everything. So in order to become an administrator, usually you have to have some background in healthcare. I don't know many people that got into healthcare administration that came from the trades. I think I know one person. I do know a nurse that used to be a welder. She became a nurse after being a welder, which was quite entertaining, but she's a great nurse. But most of us come from some type of an ancillary background: nursing, social work, dietitian. Some physicians have become administrators, which probably is a pay cut for them, but they do. Most of us, though, have background in healthcare. So like I said, I worked in acute care for a while. I fell in love with senior living because it's really a great opportunity to work with people. But in the course of a day, I'm working with doctors, nurses, lawyers, police officers. Nowadays, especially, there's a lot of mental health and a lot of drug issues that we get residents with, even in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. So in one day, actually, I was thinking one day last week, had an ethics committee to make a decision on whether or not a resident that doesn't have mental capacity should have brain surgery. So I was in that meeting, I headed that meeting up. Then that same day, I had to fire 2 people, and then I had a meeting with a family about some concerns. Then I had to work and go introduce myself to new orientees, and then I had to make some phone calls to the local health adult protective services agency. So I have to deal with a lot of different things, and every skill that everyone has talked about, being able to speak to people, being able to be critical thinker, being able to be organized, goes with what I do, but also a little sense of being crazy, right? You have to be able to deal with a lot of stuff that comes flying at you in the course of the day. I mean, I literally will deal with a department that coming to me saying, Bill, the kitchen's overflowing because there's a backup in the pipe, and they have to tear up the kitchen floor, to finding out a resident just fell on the floor, cracked their head, and they're sending them out to the hospital. So from that to this, so every day I'm dealing with something different. And so I always say I have to be a little bit schizophrenic to do what I do. Healthcare is just healthcare. I mean, you never know what you're going to deal with. I mean, we get some interesting people, interesting cases, so I can tell more stuff in the back when you come back to the table. I did not bring any props because I didn't think it'd be appropriate to bring a resident with me and put them on the table. So, but if you do have questions, please come and see me. And it's an exciting field, it's an interesting field, it's a changing field. It's a very challenging field to work in. Healthcare in general, I don't care if you work in food service all the way up to being a physician. It's a very, very different field than it was when I first entered it. So that's it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate Kevich, and teaching is something I absolutely love to do. Since I was 7, is this too loud? Since I was 17, I have tutored, taught in a public school, a Christian school, a women's prison, taught as a substitute teacher, tutored both privately and for the public school. For the public school, I tutored the kids that got suspended or broke a leg or something like that. I'm certified in the state of New York to teach math to grades 7 through 12, and certified to teach all subjects to students in nursery through 6th grade. Currently, I am tutoring privately, and I absolutely love it still. To teach or tutor privately, in New York State, there are no restrictions. Just find someone who wants to learn what you know and teach them. Ask what for a reasonable amount of money, and do it for free, and just enjoy it. However, to currently teach or tutor for a public school in New York, a person must do a few things. First, earn a bachelor's degree from an approved teacher preparation program at a New York State higher institution. Such programs include courses that are extremely anti-biblical, but are required, mostly in psychology and teaching methodology. So as a Christian, you just ignore it, spit out the answers that they're looking for in a test, and then you keep going. Because if you think that's what the Lord wants you to do, well, you need a certificate. Also, the college or institution will require you to have practical teaching experience that is guided. Next, pass the New York State certification exams. There's usually 2, sometimes there are 3. And then you have to complete some mandatory workshops on topics like child safety, school violence prevention. We won't go any further. Some workshops are online and some require in-person attendance. And then lastly, you have to apply for certification and you get it. There are some alternative paths, but that's pretty much how you go. Once you're certified, you can go ahead and teach, but if you want to continue teaching, you need to get permanent certification within 5 years of obtaining your initial certificate by getting a master's degree, and you get paid more money for that. Or there are some other different certifications, professional and provisional, that are dependent on professional development hours. I can't remember how many, but they give you like 5 years to get like 375 hours or something like that. The average teacher salary in New York State in 2022 is $91,000. New York City's starting salary for teachers with a bachelor's degree was about $64,500 in early 2024. Starting salaries in districts across the state vary, one of the variables being what kind of a degree you have, master's or bachelor's, and of course, what kind of community you're teaching in, how much money they have to pay you. When I stopped tutoring for the public school, I can tell you privately at the table why I did that. I made $30 an hour, and that was about 4 years ago. Tutors work at least 5 hours a week, and there is no maximum. It depends on how much you are willing to work. Each student needs at least 5 hours or 10 hours per week, depending on what grade they are in. I used to go to students' homes, but after my husband got tired of listening to my tales of woe with dogs and cats and etc., he said, no more, just go to the library and they can come to you, or go to the Y and they can come to you, because kids that get suspended are a different type of student than the children that break a leg, usually. The average teacher in the United States works roughly 53 hours a week. This includes time spent teaching, grading, preparing lessons, and attending meetings. While the official contracted hours are often around 38 to 40 hours a week, the reality is that many teachers work significantly more, and that is true for teaching the Christian school also. I really, really enjoyed making money while trying to be a missionary in the public schools. I say trying because when I was first saved, my zeal for the Lord almost got me in a lot of trouble and out of a job. I can tell you about that elsewhere at the table. Preparing inmates to take the GED gave me many opportunities to share my faith, because my supervisor believed that the prison was a sort of mission field, though he was not saved. I was able to keep a Bible open on my desk, and some ladies asked me about my faith. I made sure I only answered during break time, just like I had many opportunities to talk about the Lord to the public school students that I tutored, but it was always after I made clear, we're not tutoring anymore, we're done for the day, this is not school time, because I didn't want to be fired. I don't think I was ever able to witness to a student in the public school when I taught there, or substitute taught there, but I was able to speak up for Jesus while chatting with other teachers. So it is still a mission field. If any of you have questions about teaching, please feel free to ask me at the table. I absolutely love to see light bulb moments happen when a person understands new concept. It's lovely. And I definitely enjoy sharing my teaching experiences. My husband says I should write a book. My husband says I should write a book, but I guess I prefer to forget some of the things. Lastly, if anyone would like to help a missionary wife, mom, this is where my heart is at for the last few years. Consider tutoring. It wouldn't be a career. It wouldn't even be a side hustle, unless you want to charge money, but it would be a blessing. I am sure that many missionaries have to come off the field. I know that many have to come off the field because of a wife's situation, sick, or maybe because their children would like to take the monitor and throw the DVD school out the window. They need a real person, even if it's just FaceTime, and that's what I do, FaceTime. I tutor 4 students, FaceTime, 3 days a week. And yes, there's a time change thing, but it can be done if the Lord is in it. So any of you that might be thinking, gee, I can teach whatever. I can read a book to a young child who's needs somebody to help them because mom is doing this, that, and the other thing because she's a missionary wife and mother and counselor, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure it'd be a blessing. Thank you for your attention.
Morning. So let's see, 44 years ago tomorrow, I walked in Eastman Kodak Company as a long-haired, smart-aleck 20-year-old. And I'll backload what I have to say because my job has changed so much from the day I walked in there that most of that original job is long gone. I started out, I have an optics degree, a 2-year degree from MCC that I got the last year that I did that. I was working at Kodak already. I'd already been hired, so I was working the 7-day swing shift, which is 7 days on. Midnights, you get a couple of days off, 7 days on. B shift, you get a couple of days off, 7 days on. A shift, you get a couple of days off. While I was finishing my degree up, so I would leave the midnight shift at 8 in the morning. I would go to MCC, sit in class till 3. If it was a lecture that day, it would be till 4 or 5. I would go home and get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. In between there, I had to do homework, all that type of thing, labs, and then head back to work. So that did develop a certain level of grit and perseverance that you need to stay in a job for as long as I have. And that can be developed a lot of other ways, just being faithful to whatever you are called to do now, and doing what you do, what you have to do well, doing that well will get you to the same place really, a lot easier. So I had my optics degree. I got hired at Kodak, and we were making, it was a quality assurance group. We were testing all the optical elements that went into all the cameras that Kodak used to make. So all those Instamatic cameras, it was all a lot of plastic lenses. They came up with a disc camera. I was sent down as a technician after I graduated to oversee a group of 15 inspectors. And that again was, that was straight B shift for 6 months. I did that. And all of these things eventually went away. They lost a couple of lawsuits, and their camera business basically eventually went down the drain. And digital photography also caught up with them and put an end to that. So there was a point in 1987, I moved over to the Federal Systems Division, and I've worked there doing the same thing. The job has morphed, but I've been there since '87, so the last 38 years I have been doing that. Now, in the division that I'm in, there is a top secret security clearance that is required. My investigation for my background took 5 months.
and they go into everything, like Justin was saying, several others have said, everything you've ever done is going to come out. They are going to dig deep on you and find out what you've been up to. And if you're, if you're a kid who's throwing rocks at streetlights when you're 13 years old, they're going to find out that you've been doing those things. And I know nobody in here has, but you need to keep your nose clean for pretty much most of these jobs that have been mentioned. You need to keep your nose super clean, or you're not going to be able to be considered for them. We get fingerprinted, we have polygraphs, we have regular security updates that we have to fill out, all background information on your family members, and they do talk to your neighbors, all your family members, everybody who knows you and has anything to do with you is going to be interviewed for that. My job that I have now does limit your travel, for example. You're not going to go on too many foreign missions trips. If you do, you have to get prior clearance, depending on where they are. If they're a country that you're not supposed to be going into, you will be told you can't go. You do need prior clearance. I haven't even crossed the border into Canada for over 20 years now. It's just not worth the hassle for me. So I have not even done that during that time. My job has a lot of math, has a lot of computer skills, Excel, Word, reports, all the data. I've probably performed over 25,000 individual tests. I run a test lab is what I do. I run a test lab for composite testing now. Everything we make where I work is made of composite. And everything gets tested on an individual basis. I've probably done over 25,000 tests over these years. They all get reported. They all get documented. All the records are kept forever. All the test samples are kept forever. Because what we do, if anything ever goes wrong down the line, they will burrow back down. They will find out where the mistake was made and who made the mistake, and go on from there. So it's not necessarily a super relaxing job when you look back on it over a long time. There are many nights I have woke up and not gotten back to sleep, concerned about things that could have gone wrong, fortunately did not. The work ethic that's been mentioned is absolutely critical, and I got mine from my father. All right, my dad was a self-employed plumber, then he worked for Kodak for the last 10 years of his career. And my dad's thing was, if you are healthy, if you are capable of bending down and tying your shoes, then you go to work that day. And you don't go late, and you don't leave early, and you don't take long breaks or long lunches. And that's the way you need to get thinking about. That's the way things have to be if you want to succeed and not just kind of skim by. So I do a lot of technical writing. I've written a whole bunch of procedures over the years. I've trained a whole bunch of people on how to do many technical aspects of the job. Our job consists of a lot of measuring, so there's a lot of basic measuring tools that we use. And you'll need to be able to learn and to think technically. So the young guy who I'm training to do my job when I retire, I've been training him for 5 years. He did not go to school, and one of the more challenging aspects of training him has been when you take technical classes, all right, you have to take physics, you learn math, you take technical writing classes, that type of thing. You learn to think in a certain way of precision. And one of the challenges I've had is bringing him up to speed on that. He's a great young guy, but that has been a bit of a challenge. So they're very, L3 Harris is a very DEI, politically correct place to work. And it is not an easy place to witness in. I have been called on the carpet a couple of times for publicly, openly witnessing Christ. Back in the old days of Kodak, it was easy. You couldn't get by me in those days without being given a tract, that type of thing. If you want to do that here, you better have your next job lined up because you will be fired. Right? They made that very clear. I remember one day I had a couple of good talks with 2 different people, and they came to me with their issues, and I presented Christ and the gospel as the answer, gave them tracts, and we had what I thought were good talks. There was no real confrontation or any type of thing like that. And the very next day, a note was sent out through corporate, not coincidentally, I don't believe, stating that the dissemination of religious literature on whatever company we were at the time, I can't remember because we've been 5 different companies, whoever it was at the time, is not acceptable, and basically it will come with a price if you want to do it. It can be suspension, termination, that type of thing. So that is how a lot of the companies now are. And you need to do your background investigation if you think you want to work for a particular company and find out what their policies are, because they can make your life very difficult. So I still have conversations with people. I still give tracts out to individuals who I have conversations with, but the days of just openly witnessing to everybody in the place are long gone. Like I say, if you want to do it, get your next job ready, because you will be walked out. So I'm trying to think here, anything else here? The travel, background check, documentation skills, DEI, and the work ethic. So having said that, it has been a good place overall for me all these years. Kodak was a much friendlier place, family type atmosphere. And through the years, though, each time we've been sold, it was Kodak, then it was ITT, then it was Exelis, then it was Harris, and then we joined with L3, become L3 Harris. With each one of those moves, time has marched on, and working for employers like this has gotten, it's gotten a little more complicated. So you need to pick your spot where you want to be. You need to get an idea of what you want to do. I believe college has a, if you're getting into a field that needs college, I think you obviously have to consider that if it's required, but there are a lot of ways to skin the cat. So I think the medical field, and there are a few other fields that absolutely require it, but you need to be in prayer, and you need to talk to, your parents know you well, pastor knows you well, and you need to give serious thought, really, to what you want to do, all right? I just followed, in my house, everybody went to college. So I just signed up for MCC. I had no idea what I wanted to do. My first year I spent, I was in data processing, hated it, spent all my time in the pool hall, flunked out, spent a summer driving a dump truck for the town of Irondequoit, and decided that I had to get my life together, because after working with the guys, we called them the lifers there. After working with the lifers for a few months, I decided I did not want to be a lifer there. And so I got my act together and went to school and learned something. So I just encourage you to talk to these different folks here, and you need to be in prayer. God has to be in your equation as to what you want to do. Because once you get in there, you start working somewhere, and if you get married and you start a family and you have responsibilities and you get a home and you have income requirements that you have to meet, your options start to disappear. And so you need to get these things in order and make good choices one at a time along the way. Because if you have to back up and fix things, that's a much more difficult thing to do. Okay, so with that.
So I got some good news for you. You don't need a background check in real estate. In fact, they say when I went to get a job in a real estate company, they say that they put a mirror in front of your face, and if you breathe on it, it fogs up, they'll hire you. So that's all that's required. I'm a real estate investor, and It's interesting, unlike probably every one of you guys here, I was a total screw up. I'm 28 years old, I barely passed high school, had no learning, no experience, and I started out with $2,000 from, I owned a bar, sold the bar, had to pay the commission, had $2,000, no experience, no clue. I wasn't diligent, I wasn't hardworking, I wasn't smart, and only by God's grace have I been able to do anything at all. Literally, I mean, I bought my first house with $2,000 down, and we were buying houses on credit cards, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I've made probably 10,000 plus mistakes. I've not honored God sometimes in my decisions, but God has chose to bless me for some reason. And a couple good things I did was, I was 28. The Lord just delivered me from 11-year alcohol and gambling addiction, plus all that I just said, and He allowed me to prosper. And one real good thing happened. Within 1 year, I met Maria, and she had a really good job, and she quit her job and come to work for me. And she was a stable force, probably the exact opposite of me. And that was really a help to me. And I didn't get saved till roughly 4 years after I started my business. And I think, again, with all the mistakes I made, the couple good decisions I made was I dedicated my business to the Lord. And I decided to put scripture on my business cards, put my testimony on my website, and this is sort of my uniform. I've not worn a suit in real estate. In fact, when I went into get a job in a real estate office back then, it was 1988, I think, the average person was making about $23,000 a year. And again, I told you I was a screw-up. My attitude right away, a little bit cocky, was why would I ever want to make $23,000? I'm not going to sell real estate. I'm going to buy real estate. I had nothing. And the Lord just saw it through, made a lot of decisions that were good, but again, a lot of bad ones. I think probably one of the most critical things you need in this business is vision. I normally buy other people's cast-offs. I buy people's mistakes. We've used even a term, buying garbage and turning it into gold. I've bought houses that have been totally destroyed, holes punched in the walls, kicked in, plumbing burst, floors buckled, and you got to be able to walk in there and look at what's there and be able to see what it can be. And it's, to me, my job's extremely stressful. In my very early years, I literally fending off fistfights with college kids, coming into a house with thousands of cockroaches pouring out of the cabinets, just crazy. A guy pulling a knife on me, trying to collect rent. In the early years, it was crazy. As I'm sitting there and hearing you guys talk, I'm thinking what a long ride it's been. It's been 38 years I've done this. And I've had a lot of friends say I would never, ever do what you do. It's been stressful. It's been difficult. And again, another really good decision I made in a very early time period was to be home at 5 o'clock every single day and not work on the weekends and never work or miss work no matter what. If someone called me up and said, I want to sell my house and I can make whatever, I'm not going to go if it's Wednesday night or Sunday. And again, I've made a lot of mistakes, and like I said, I've dishonored the Lord, but the Lord's been faithful to me. I think those are critical things. Don't ever take a job that's going to prevent you from being able to go to church and prevent you from, doing what's important with your family. So there's a lot. I could go on forever. I'm trying to look at the guidelines that they want me to talk about. You don't need a degree. As I mentioned before, you really don't need anything. It is difficult. There's a lot of guys on TV and in these different things that says you can be a millionaire with nothing. It's very, very hard to do. I did start with pretty much nothing. What I believe now, it would be difficult to do. I don't believe in borrowing money and having debt. It prevents you from being able to serve the Lord. There's a lot of people, they leverage, they say in real estate, use other people's money, leverage as much as you can, but a lot of times you find yourself getting in a lot of trouble doing that. So it is difficult. One thing I did do was I found ways that I could form a partnership. If Eric has a lot of money and he has enough trust in me and he doesn't have time or interest in getting in real estate, and John over here or John over there has great construction skills, I would partner us three together, use his money, his skills, and my skills to find the deals and make everything work without having to borrow money. And everyone understood the role they played and what they had to do. Again, I've been very blessed with my family. All my kids have worked for me. My son Jesse's my partner now, and he'll take over the business. And without them, I couldn't have done what I've done. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. If you want to ask questions, there's a lot involved, but really the most critical component is putting the Lord first. And he hopefully controls my company and runs it. I work for him.
All right. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I still don't know. I actually almost left my job last year, and thankfully for God's planning, I was able to stay. And anyway, I would say there's all the different careers. Just follow what God has for you to do. I just started by helping out, work on this building, and 10 and a half years later, I've got a great job, a great family, and I really love what I do. It's fun. Every day is something different. I work on fire alarms. I started off working on fire sprinklers. So our company, it was a Fortune 500 company until they moved out of the U.S., but it's a big company. It's huge. There's a lot of room for advancement. Anything you want to do, really, you have the chance to do. You could do sales, management, construction, service, work on a computer, work with your hands. There is really limitless. The only limit to what you can do is what you put into it. That's what I found. But I started off working with the pipes, and now I work on the things that alarm when the pipes burst and everything. So there's a little bit of crossover. You do need a security clearance. You need a background check. I think 2.5 out of the last 3 weeks I've spent most of my time in Wyoming County Correctional Facility, Monroe County Jail, and Wayne County Jail. So they don't want you just somebody off the street. So there's background checks, drug tests, that sort of stuff. So keep your nose clean. Trying to think what else. If you enjoy working with your hands, there's a great chance to do that. I don't have any college. They paid for me to go through like 5 years of online training. But it's not like you're sitting at a night class every night. I was able to do Institute at the same time. So I did that. There's a little bit of computer work. There's programming, like coding, like Jason was talking about. It's the same sort of principle. Probably as much of the job as you want it to be. You can do that if you want. I do electrical, low voltage electrical now, and a lot of troubleshooting. I'm on the road most of the time. Typically I'll drive 1,000 miles every week, 500 at least. Could be anywhere. Just going all over the place and meeting with customers, talking with people, figure out what their problems are, and try your best to help them. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Amen. All right. So I will take the last 3 minutes and we'll dismiss and everybody can go on back. So I asked my wife to do this part, but she didn't really want to talk. She does not like it, so I had to do this. So my wife and I, we have a table back there for content creation. That covers everything like blogging, that covers video course creation stuff, that covers anything in the creative space. This is, and everybody that does something gets passionate about that, so obviously they'd probably be like, oh, you should definitely check out what I do. But in this type of thing, given the age you are, this is a fantastic thing to start trying to get into because you have interests already of things you'd like to do, whatever it might be. And there's other people that share those interests, and they go where to find out more about them? Google. And so when you start to Google stuff, eventually, like the great thing to have happen is that you become such an authority on the internet that your answers start to be what Google uses to answer the questions that people are asking. And that's happened with a lot of stuff that I've written over the last 13 years in the travel space, is that people search for how do you do this or how do you do that, and it pops up. Probably my favorite thing, and didn't pay me any money for it, was when I was on the phone arguing with an airline rep one time, and she actually went and she pulled something up, and she said, I'm reading right here that says this. I said, wait, where are you reading this from? She told me, I said, that's my website. She didn't even go to their website because it was so confusing. Mine explained it more clearly. But that tells you that even company people use the internet to try to find an answer to something because they don't know. So if you have an interest, you can start trying to develop that a little bit more online. You start posting maybe videos. The barrier for entry is so cheap. It's like crazy how cheap it is to get started with that type of thing. And you have all the flexibility in the world. You are doing it for yourself. And if you start now, the key thing is consistency. If you're consistent with it, my wife and her sisters, they had a blog that I think the first year they made almost nothing, right? Almost nothing. Now, 8 years in, they're making $50,000 to $60,000 a year collectively, and they don't do much at all anymore because it's just consistently posting things. So if it's something that you say, I have an interest in this, start writing about it, start learning about it more, and post your findings online and on your website, and eventually over time that grows. I have friends in the same space that they've sold out. They were 24 years old and they sold it for $3 million. In similar situations where I was at, had I pursued that over ministry type of thing. So there's a lot of space for this type of thing. The newest and greatest thing is because colleges are not as popular as they used to be, online courses are huge. And people, you might be like, well, I don't know enough. Well, start to learn more about what interests you, and you don't have to be a professor level. If you're 1 to 10 and you know 3, you actually can teach 1 and 2 knowledge-based people really easily because you were just there. You know the basic questions they're asking. If you're 8, you forget what 1, 2, and 3 are thinking about. You're answering questions, you're answering things that they're like, what do you mean by that? And so it doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum, there's always somebody you can teach. And there's always people that will be willing to pay for that. So there's a lot of stuff about that we can talk about back at the table as well. So that will be back there. And lastly, Mr. Mankiewicz was not able to be here. He's out of the country on work. And he prepared a fantastically filled packet of stuff. He's a plant engineer. And if you have any questions about anything what that does or what type of people he looks for to hire, I've got his printout that I think it's like 12 pages of stuff that he put together for that. So make sure you take that. That will be at our table as well. But we're going to pray, dismiss. Lunch will be at 12:30. We have coffee out here. And this is what I encourage you to do. You heard from a lot of different people. You heard from Joel talking about how agriculture or how irrigation is important in the landscape thing. You heard Dylan talking about different things about auto mechanics. Listen, you may never get a job in auto mechanics, but he could point you in the right direction on how to be able to learn how to do some basic stuff that will save you money. It's not going to cost him business. He's got a full schedule, so he'll be happy to help with that. Mr. McCracken talking about stuff in the whole farming application, things that you can learn. Maybe he might be able to point you in a direction of things that might help you in gardening for your own family and things like that too. So, and Mr. Reed with construction, you may not go into the field of construction, but to be able to know where to go to learn some stuff that you can do in your own home that will help maybe save money, maybe do some stuff on the side. You should be able to talk to every single person in here and find something helpful to add. If you're not convinced what you should do yet, you should definitely talk to everybody and get a little bit of information, because for sure it can give you some help. And at the very least, you learn a little bit more about the people in the church that you go to and what they do. And Christian character is key. Christ first. Being a good representative, good testimony, good work ethic. If you don't have that, I don't care what job you're looking for. You need to be able to apply yourself. So don't be just, well, I think I like this, and do it for 2 months and hop to something else. if you have 7 different jobs in 7 different fields within a year, find something to apply yourself for a time to learn enough about it to be able to say, okay, build this thing. Jason Lodice with coding, if you ever want to learn even just a basic, you should. Most of our lives run on software. It's helpful to learn a few things about that, and he can point you in directions on that. Mr. Robinson, you may never become a healthcare administrator, but he mentioned he had to fire a couple people. He probably looks to hire some people on a regular basis too. He'd be a great type of person to talk to understand about what people are looking for to hire in various things. So please, take advantage of this. Again, they've given their time to be here today to help you. And we'll have a great time around that. So let's go ahead and pray. We'll be dismissed. They'll head back to their tables. If the table's occupied, if somebody's busy, listen in to what's going on or find somebody else to talk to while they're doing it. We'll break for lunch at 12:30, all right? Dear Lord, we thank you so much, Lord, for these men and women, Lord, and their collective knowledge and help that they have to be able to offer to all the young people here today. And I thank you, Lord, most of all for their Christian characters and examples that I know are just such a blessing to be able to behold. I pray that you'd bless them for their time that they've given. Bless our young people, Lord, as they try to see what you might have for them in their lives, that you would give them clarity and you'd give them today, Lord, maybe some things that they can take away and think about and consider, and that it might yield something for them in their lives that they might pursue. And thank you for it in Jesus' name.